now you're talking about the technical sides of writing, which is not really well known in the blues world, right? Like the blues is a little not very, it's not perfect English.
Yeah.
So where's the balance in that now too, right? Because you got to have that blues feel to songs. You can't be too technical with your words, right?
No, no, that's all inside baseball stuff, man.
Yeah,
If somebody sees that, oh, look at his choice of adjective and infinitive and all, I don't even know what that stuff is, to be
right.
very honest.
Yeah,
I know when I read something, if I go, hey, I get that, or you know what, I don't get it. What are you saying there? And I write the lyrics. That's mainly what I do when I write songs. And I've worked with guys like Ralph Carter, and I'll tell you other guys I've written songs with who are just amazing at the music side. And for a while, again, I kind of felt like, oh, I got to learn how to be the music guy too. Just kind of like, well, I better learn the harmonica. But I'm like, you know what? Look at me and where I am in the world and in my life right now. It's like maybe that's the best thing I can do. There are some people who have agreed to work with me and collaborate with me and bring the magic of what they do to the musical side. And even Ralph will say, he'll say to me, we wrote a song, we haven't released it. I don't know what to do with it. We recorded it, and I think I got to redo it. And I remember being in the studio, and he goes, we woke up one morning. We stayed in Muscle Shoals at a studio where we lived in there for the week, for 5 days with the band. Most of them I met that Monday morning because they were session players. We didn't really have a band. We just did this to make a record. And he comes down to breakfast and he's looking like he's seen a ghost. I'm like, are you okay, Ralph? He's like, well, he's a very soft-spoken and gentle, amazing guy. I don't quite understand that first verse. And I thought he was going to start crying. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He explains it to me. I'm like, well, heck, just say something. What if I said this? And I'm pretty good at writing to a deadline. That's what I learned being a newspaper dude and a magazine guy and really an advertising guy. There's always a deadline. So when Ralph said, hey, you got to write songs, and I really never had a deadline, so I didn't write any. But once we said we're going to make a record, I was like, oh, I got a deadline. I said, yeah, let's meet in Clarksdale in about 12 weeks. I'll bring the songs with me. And I don't even know why I said that. I don't know why it came out of my mouth. But looking back, it's because I'd spent 40 years of saying, yeah, you'll have your ad next week, or I'll have that story to you by the end of the day. I'm covering a football game. I got till 9:30 tonight to write the story about the high school football game. I don't get till tomorrow to get it done. That's when the paper comes out.
yeah. It's just
So,
another classic case of life experiences preparing you for what's to come.
amen.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
It's like Pavlov. I mean, I hear a deadline and I start writing, man. I start writing and I don't screw around.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't have writer's block. That doesn't pay well.
I love this, man. Let's talk a little bit about like the stereotypical blues, right? Because as a
Yeah.
blues fan myself, like I've been listening to the blues since I was a little boy. So for me and most people, it's more melodic, it's more beat, it's more musical based. It's just a
Yeah.
musical genre, and the
Yeah.
lyrics have always kind of become secondary to the point where you can have a hit song that has the same verse just being repeated over and over
Oh,
again. There are songs like
absolutely.
that. So as a lyrical writer, a person that's really based in the lyrics, how do you kind of make relevant lyrics for blues, which is more musical based? Because you do that. You're amazing at that.
Huh. Well, thank you, first of all. But, it came from the people I listened to because let's take the song Going Down Slow, which is an old blues standard. You may not know it, but it's a very intricate story about a man who has lived his life the wrong way. And he says, hey, mother, I'm dying. And when you see the train pull into town, get my clothes ready to go home. He means going to heaven. And I mean, and the next time you see my father, tell him don't shed no tears, because the way I've been living's done shorten my years. And so there are intricate, deep, emotional, complicated
Sure.
lyrical songs. And I gravitated toward those guys like Howlin' Wolf,
Yes.
Killing Floor. I mean, think of Killing Floor. I mean, this guy runs out of the country. He's got to go. I don't know what it means, but I think he gets a job in a slaughter plant in Mexico because he's on the lam. He's running, and then he kills somebody. I mean, these are very dramatic kind of movie scene kind of songs. So you say, how do you do that? I guess more of my songs go toward, hey, there's these are kind of Shakespearean tales of intrigue and
Yeah.
murder
It's
and
incredible, man.
conflict.
It really, truly is. Yeah.
And I love Shakespeare. I love Shakespeare. I mean, thankfully, I studied that as I was in college, and I thought, oh hell, why am I taking this class? But wow, I totally get it now, because there aren't many new themes for stories, and a whole heck of a lot of them are in the great literature of the past, like that Shakespeare. And I don't want to come off like a professor guy. I'm just a regular guy, but I've tried to study the blues and all sorts of storytelling, and then work that into what I do.
Yeah. It's just the album Stuck in the Mud is just a bunch of books. It's like a bunch of books for me. Like honestly, like different stories. Like I listen to the first song and I'm just like, okay, this is different. He's saying stuff here. Like there is stuff to listen to here other than just the music. And a lot of times, as a blues fan, I can just get lost in the music to where the lyrics just don't matter. And that's not the case with Stuck in the Mud at all. It makes you listen. And I think that's a really, really huge talent of yours. Like, if you can make somebody listen, big deal. That's a big deal to me. Let's talk about.
I love good old, hey, let's take Jimmy Reed, who Jimmy Reed would. I think he'd just make them up in the studio.
Yeah.
There's really not a lot to his songs, but I mean, he must have recorded 500 of them, and I've listened to every one, and I love every one of them. I mean, they're just wonderful. And he's not telling Shakespearean tales of tragedy, but he wrote a song called Odds and Ends once, and he recorded it. And then he recorded a song called Ends and Odds. I think he just flipped the words around and did it again. So, so I'm sorry. You had a question.
No, you're good. It's just really exciting to hear that from the genre. And I love the fact that basically it was a hyperspeed project, 12 weeks of, from blank pages to fully fleshed songs. It's just incredible. The fact that your story, as it begins with the trip to Clarksdale, I know there's more story prior to that, but really that's when everything really started coming into focus, meeting Ralph Carter and all of that stuff. I find it interesting that you always seem to be on the peripheral of kind of a musical mecca, right? Clarksdale, Memphis, then Muscle Shoals. Like, even growing up, you're not that far from Chicago. Like, there's, you're always on the periphery of music, and that's usually when it's supposed to be that way. It's that serendipitous nature of your path, right? So what's it like for you, like walking into Muscle Shoals? Like 12 weeks ago, you have blank pages, and now you're walking into a studio that's been booked prior to having the songs, and now you're going out there to record them. This has to be different for kind of a different experience for a former frontman of a cover band, right?
Well, first of all, as I told you, I love music and I do it for fun. So I approached it with that attitude. I was excited but not scared at all.
Yeah.
And then I told Ralph, this was a while back, I said, Ralph, thank God I didn't know what we were going to do when we got there, because I might have been scared. And not that it was scary, but I just sort of was kind of like Mr. Magoo, if I can use that. I was just like, I'll just show up at a studio and Ralph will tell me what to do and it'll turn out great.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, hey, kids, let's make a musical, And
Yep.
But the funny thing is, I think that actually happened. And that's probably what was supposed to happen. I wasn't supposed to worry about it. Ralph was supposed to worry about it. He did. He auditioned the musicians. He wrote charts. He sat there with drummer Justin Holder and said, wait a minute, I don't like the sound of that snare. Get me a da-da-da-da-da-da. Can you bring this, on and on? I mean, every instrument. Ralph plays every instrument. He's a drummer. He's a pianist. He's a guitar player. He's a bass player. He sings. He's been a composer. And so to have him there, and I remember when we were done, I said, hey, Ralph, are you okay that you didn't play on this album? He said, I'm so happy to have been able to just be here and not have to play, and to kind of be the caretaker of these songs and try to help capture what they needed to be. And I was like, oh man, that makes me feel so good, because I felt like, wow, we got all these musicians, and you didn't even get to play. But he's like, no, this was a real treat.
I
So
mean,
that
he's
was
the
pretty
impetus
cool.
for the album, man. And the album might as well have, like, it should be called Ralph Carter and not Stuck in the Mud, really, right? Like, without him, it doesn't exist.
I see. I didn't know that. I went to the studio. I didn't know what a producer did. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm a music guy. I listen. Oh, who produced this record? Who produced
right.
that record? Well, but I didn't know what produced means. And he'd say, "Hey, let's use the Wurlitzer piano here, and why don't you come in here with a B3? And you know what? Then we'll use the piano, just the regular, Steinway piano here for this part. And let's just do this acoustic. You and Eric Deaton on the guitar, and let's just run it through one time and see what it sounds like." And he was a master of creating these finished songs that, Chris, the funny thing about being a frontman is I'd recorded a few records of covers, right?
Yeah.
So we can get book gigs and stuff like that. But when I go to the studio to record them, it's just like we're playing live, and we've played them 500 times.
Yep.
I know those backwards and forwards. The funny thing about these songs is Ralph and I recorded a demo of them sitting on a picnic table in Clarksdale, Mississippi, and we took them to the studio in Muscle Shoals, and we didn't know what the song was going to sound like. He had to create that in the studio. And I sang him in my car 100 times because I said, hey, if I'm going to Muscle Shoals, I'm going to be ready. So I had that iPhone out for, a month probably in my car driving around trying to sing the songs so that I could do my part when I got there. But then what they turned out to be, it exceeded my wildest expectations for how they could capture the stories and the feelings, especially a song like Cotton Ain't King, which is a song about where the blues came from.
Yeah.
And we all thought the South, the cotton was king, and it's not that way anymore. But something even more important came up out of the ground, and that's called the blues. And Ralph, at one point, I got to tell you, Chris, in the studio, I said, Ralph, I'm hearing these percussion noises in this song, like there's a hoe going in and chopping the weeds out between the rows of the cotton, and all these sounds of farming going on. And if you listen to that song and you got headphones, at one point Ralph had his keys in his hands, and he threw his keys from hand to hand, and it goes chink.
That's amazing.
Chink. And he said, let's put that on the record.
Yes.
Oh, that's such a cool sound, man. Do it.
I love that, man. Man, that reminds me of the story of how 9 to 5 came to be with Dolly Parton just messing with her nails, right? Did you know that?
Like, I don't know that song.
Yeah, so 9 to 5 by
I know
Dolly,
the song, yeah.
A huge song. She was just fiddling with her nails one day, and that's how she got the melody for that song. And they left that nail part in the song. Yeah,
I'm gonna listen to that with headphones, man.
Incredible stuff. Yeah, I love stories like that. This is an incredible story because it's so unusual, right? You guys are in the studio. You're recording a record that literally was a blank page 12 weeks before. And honestly, you come out with this record on the other end, and it's obviously incredible. The response has been insane, right? From your standpoint, I imagine even more insane than mine. But yet you guys have never played a live show as a band, ever, together.
No.
Like, that's insane to me. Like, how does that happen?
Well, I think I've learned as I got a little older, if somebody says something and they go, hey, what do you think about doing this? My reaction to most of it is, sure, I'll do it. Let's try it.
Yes.
And so Ralph says, let's make a record. I'm like, who am I to tell Ralph Carter I'm not going to make a record? He thinks I can do it. What the hell? Maybe he's right. So we had not played, and we didn't know these songs. We created the songs. And Chris, furthermore, I went in the studio. We didn't have a record deal. I didn't have a name for the band.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was. I just said, Ralph wants to make this record. I like what we came up with on the picnic table, so let's do it. And then, I had to give it a name. I ended up getting this award from the National Songwriters Association. I got a one to watch, which is, kind of up and coming songwriters.
Yeah.
I sent a couple of the finished songs after the session to some people who are mentors in the National Songwriters Association. And everybody who listened to him, they kept giving me this one to watch award for each song they listened to. And that helped me get a publicist, Betsy Brown, who's in Memphis. And then through the National Songwriters Association, a guy named Jim Riley, who was with the New Dillons. I don't know if you know the New Dillons, but Jim Riley's a genius songwriter. He's a genius. He listened to my stuff as a part of the mentor program of the National Songwriters Association. And I was on a Zoom call with him just like this. I didn't have a label. I didn't have a name for the band, anything. And he said, hey, he goes, this stuff's really good. I would buy this. And I'm like, really? You're kidding me? And he's like, no. He said, what do you want to do with it? I said, well, I want to get a record label. He goes, oh, don't get a record label. You're going to hate that. And blah, blah, blah. I go, no, I really want one. And I kind of was whining to him about how much I wanted a record label. And he's like, okay, uncle. And he introduced me to Johnny Phillips with Selecto Hits in Memphis. They have a record label called Big Radio Records and a couple others. And Selecto Hits was founded by Sam Phillips, who is his uncle. Mm-hmm. And so here I am, it was probably a year after we left the studio. I actually knocked on doors. I mean, literally, I drove to a studio, a label in Ohio, and I went to the place of business and I introduced myself and said, hey, I drove over here to see if you wanted to put my music on your label. And the guy starts laughing. I said, no, that's why I'm here. I did the same thing in Muscle Shoals. And I was knocking on the door of this record label. And it was kind of a small little house in maybe not the greatest neighborhood. And I kind of peeked in the screen door there. It was a small little ranch house they must have had their office in. And I kind of hear this guy behind me. And there's a guy walking from the house next door. And he's got either a baseball bat or an axe handle in his hand. And I think he thinks I'm breaking in his house. Well, it turns out that's his office. That's his home next door. Yeah. And he's the owner of the record label. He thought I was trying to break in. And I see him there, and I introduced myself. So I said, hey, I drove 8 hours to come down to Muscle Shoals here to see if you would want to put my record on your label. And he started laughing. We had a great discussion. We didn't sign with those guys, but we became friends, and it's just been a crazy adventure. And I'm just the kind of guy to do anything here.